Thank you for joining FTMIG on our morning drive segment. Today we have Equinox Gold's chair, Ross Beaty, as a guest. Mr. Beaty holds a master's in mineral exploration with distinction from the Royal School of Mines, University of London, England, and a Bachelor of Law, a Bachelor of Science, Honours in Geology from the University of British Columbia. Ross Beaty was inducted into the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame in January 2018 in recognition of his significant contributions to the Canadian mining industry. In 2021, Mr. Beaty was awarded the C.J. Westerman Memorial Award by Engineers and Geoscientists, British Columbia, for his remarkable commitment to environmentalism in the mining industry, demonstrating that mining and environmental protection are not mutually exclusive terms. Mr. Beaty is a geologist and resource company entrepreneur with over 40 years of experience in the international minerals and renewable energy industries. We hope you enjoy and stay tuned for more.
Thanks, Ashley, for Ross's bio. I'm sure that took you a while. Ross, thanks for joining me.
Pleasure.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you remember, or did you have a conversation with your guidance teacher back in high school?
My guidance teacher.
I would love to know what you told your guidance teacher on what you thought you'd do with your career.
Yeah, well, I don't remember any conversation with a guidance counselor, but I do remember doing these little multiple choice questions on what you wanted to be when you grew up, you know, like in high school and late elementary school. And it turned out I was going to be a priest. That was the one thing or a farmer.
Priest or a farmer?
And I thought that was kind of odd because I have absolutely no interest in religion and I'm definitely not a farmer. So I didn't think that they were terribly accurate. But anyway.
Wow, so things went very different.
Very different, yeah, very different.
Okay, well, we're going to get going here. We're going to ask you a bunch of questions about Equinox Gold. And, I'm sure you'll do a great job of explaining the potential value for new shareholders from Equinox's current valuation.
Sounds good.
Alrighty.
Let's go.
Okay, so you decided to found this company in 2017. Why, what was it then that maybe seemed like the right timing?
Well, I just finished selling a company that I'd developed for 10 years, a renewable energy company called Altera. And so I wasn't really ready to retire, and I really like gold. So I thought, well, I'm going to do one more company to kind of end my career. My very first company was a gold mining company called Equinox Resources, and I thought, well, maybe my last company will be a gold mining company called Equinox Gold. So that was the plan, and gold prices were relatively low then, I think around $1,450 an ounce. I was very bullish about gold. Mm-hmm. So knowing how to build these companies fairly quickly, I thought it would be a good strategy and a kind of a fun thing to do. So that's what we started out doing.
So you weren't ready to retire?
Wasn't ready to retire, not quite.
So you've grown the company mostly through M&A. What's
Right.
sort of your due diligence process?
Well, when you're trying to build a gold company these days, that's going to be a big company, you cannot do it through the traditional means of discovering a gold deposit, doing all the feasibility work, financing, constructing, and so on. That takes years and years and years. I don't have that many years left in me to do that. Plus, it's high risk and it's very difficult. So the only other way is to do it through mergers and acquisitions. And so we really did that strategy from the get-go. We bought a gold mine in the first year of our operation in 2018 in California called Mesquite. Then we built a mine that we'd started the company with two development projects, one in Brazil, one in California. So we were developing those two projects while at the same time looking for acquisitions. And so we bought this gold mine in California in 2018. And then at the end of 2019, early 2020, we acquired a very large company that was about our size called Leagold. That brought us 5 new gold mines, producing gold mines. Meanwhile, we'd built one in Brazil, and we were building one in California, our second mine in California. And then at the end of 2020, early 2021, we acquired another company in Ontario called Premier, which got us a large development project called Greenstone. Subsequently, we sold 2 of the smaller mines that we had acquired, and we ended up today with 7 operating gold mines and a large development project we're working on in Ontario. So when you're doing these acquisitions, you do go through a traditional due diligence process. You look at the mines, you look at all the factors that influence their success, and then you look at the risks compared to the cost. Yeah. What's the value proposition? Is this going to be a good deal for shareholders? And you don't always get it right, but but usually, what it ends up with is it builds a bigger company, and with size comes a lot of good things these days. It wasn't like this, 30 years ago, because scale then wasn't as important as it is today. But today's institutional shareholders, particularly, they want a big company that is diversified, lower risk, has much more exposure to problems, not exposure to problems, but ways to alleviate problems that might arise. And with scale, you get entry into large pools of capital, like these ETFs that small companies don't have.
Right.
Usually you get better premiums, you get higher valuation metrics, and so it's generally speaking a good strategy by itself. Of course, the quality of the acquisitions is really important, and how they fit, and so for us it was a matter of looking in the Americas. That's where my experience has been very considerable over the last, really, I've been working in this industry since 1985, and in Latin America since 1994. So about 35 years, and it's been pretty successful for me in another company, Pan American Silver, and a whole bunch of exploration companies that I founded. So it was the right area. We had operating teams in those countries: Mexico, the United States, and Brazil, and it was a logical place to go. I will say one of the acquisitions has not turned out to be a bed of roses that we all thought it would be. This is a mine in Mexico called Los Filos. The big problem there is it's a really big mine with a massive gold inventory, but what I hadn't counted on was the complicated social picture in that area. And what happened right after we made the acquisition was the local communities blockaded us, and that really took the wind out of our sails in terms of trying to expand the mine, which was our plan, and have it produce profitably for the next few years. And actually, to this day, it's still been a difficult mine. We haven't really cured the social difficulties that we have inherited there, that were caused by a bunch of previous companies signing agreements that are difficult agreements for us to live with. So that one hasn't yet really proven itself to be the right acquisition, which is unfortunate, but it's the way it is. We're stuck with it now, and we have to make the most of it. Now, luckily, there are ways that we're going to be able to make this work, and we're working hard on doing that. But it's a very complicated social picture. Beyond that, I would say we certainly achieved what we set out to achieve. We got into all the big equity indexes. We have built a strong balance sheet. We produced over $1 billion of revenue in our third year of operation. So we certainly have scale. We have some great shareholders, and we're highly leveraged to the gold price, which is another thing that I wanted to do when you start these companies. If you're going to build a gold company, build a company that's really going to prosper in high gold prices, but at the same time, if gold goes down, it's not going to do very well. That's called leverage, and we certainly have that right now. We produce about 600,000 ounces of gold a year, and we are on the way to producing 1 million ounces with growth projects that are in-house already.
So you answered some of my next questions there, but you just mentioned you're on your way to 1 million ounces. That's sort of been your vision.
Yeah.
So what's the reason for that?
Yeah, well, 1 million ounces, it doesn't mean anything by itself. It's just a number, but it represents size. It represents size. If you can produce 1 million ounces a year, you're in sort of the top 20 gold producers in the world, and you really are of interest to large pools of investment capital interested in getting exposure to a gold equity that has more leverage to the gold price. And so, for example, if gold goes up 5%, our stock will go up 20%.
Right.
That's why you buy an equity. The reverse is true too if the gold price goes down, but people generally don't buy gold companies if they're bearish on gold prices.
Right.
So that's really what you do when you have scale. The more production you have, the larger your reserves and resources are, the more leverage you have to gold, the more interesting you are to gold interested investors. And you're really building a company that's almost custom created to give investors a great bang for their buck, as long as gold behaves.
Right.
That's the key. Gold has to behave. And of course, you have to do your job operating the mine successfully and increasing your reserves and resources. And that's probably the tough part, because mining is a very difficult business.
When did you acquire that Mexican gold mine?
That was in our Leah Gold deal, which brought us 3 producing mines in Brazil. We've since sold one, and have built another one. And then we got the Mexican asset there. It was early 2020.
Okay. So what are the priorities for the company over the next few years?
Priorities for the company are just keeping our heads down and doing exactly what we've done. We build mines, we buy mines, we operate them well, we discover gold. We're just trying to build ourselves into a really big, really successful company that's actually fun to work with. But for last year, which was a very difficult year for us, I think we certainly delivered on that. And last year was a tough year. A bunch of things, went wrong. We still have issues in Mexico. We had quite high costs at some of our mines in Brazil. Those were one-offs. I don't think they're going to be repeated, but it was a tough year. And then after March, when gold hit an all-time high, gold just started a crater as the U.S. dollar got strong.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you buy if you build a company for gold investors, and gold goes down, they sell, and you generally underperform rather than outperform. So we outperformed in 2018, 2019, 2020. We underperformed in 2021 and 2022 as the gold price sort of wobbled. Luckily for us, gold kind of bottomed at about 1640 in November this past year.
Yeah.
And in the last couple of months, it's been on a tear.
Yes.
And so our stock's up, I don't know what it is, 40-50% already.
From the low.
From the low, maybe 60% or 70% from the low. And that's exactly what leveraged gold companies deliver.
Yeah.
They deliver this outperformance when gold market's good. I think gold has got great legs right now.
Yeah, let's stay on that. Let's talk macros.
Sure.
What's kind of your forecast for the gold price?
Well, you never know. You can never say what the high is and when it's going to happen. But let's put it this way. After gold being crushed as the U.S. dollar strengthened, as the U.S. market tightened, as the central bank tightened its monetary policy, everything was hurt. The S&P 500 was hurt, bonds were hurt, cryptos were crushed, and gold was hurt. Gold actually outperformed all of those, but it still was down last year.
Yeah.
So when that program of tightening ended in about October, November, that's when gold started to rise and the U.S. dollar started to weaken. So the gold is a real inverse relation to the dollar. As the dollar strengthens, gold weakens and vice versa. And then you had other factors, like I said, cryptos, which had been an alternative source for certain speculative investors, delivered terrible results. And I think the party the speculative party is over for a while in cryptos. And I think gold benefited from some of that. Gold benefited from more of a risk trade now, which is happening. And of course, all the flooding of markets with currency, flooding of markets with money, paper money in all the COVID years, 2020 and 2021, all of that money now has to find a place. And some of it's going into gold as an alternative investment category. So I think gold right now has great legs. I think this tightening phase is over. We're going to see progressive stimulus, or at least progressive interest rate reductions over the next few years. In that environment, gold should do really well. I think gold will shoot through its previous high of about 2,050 and sail on to new highs during 2023. How high, I don't know, and when the peak is, I don't know.
It does kind of seem like interest rates, investors seeing that interest rates are going to pause would probably help the gold price out.
Yeah, for sure.
There is a Fed meeting coming up, I think, in the next few weeks. Well, in Canada here, we have one tomorrow, but that's not really going to affect the gold price, really. It's obviously the U.S. So you're thinking potentially a couple or one small rate hike and then a pause?
Gold right now, it just has great momentum. What the market is saying is that things are going to loosen up. The tightening is going to end very soon, and markets always predict change, right?
The bond market's kind of showing that.
Yeah, the bond market's showing that. So is the stock market. So is the gold market. So is the U.S. dollar.
Right.
And that's likely to continue. It's not going to do anything dramatic quickly, but it's just a movement, a momentum, a trend. And you're seeing that reflect itself in higher gold prices. Gold was held below what I think it should have been with all the monetary easing that went on because the U.S. dollar strengthened so much last year. That's over now, and that's why I think gold will do very well. Yeah. And let's put geopolitical events to the side, because traditionally gold has kind of been a fear trade, but I don't think that really is relevant anymore. There is noise going on in Ukraine, of course. There's noise going on in other places in the world, geopolitical noise, but really people aren't buying gold for that. They're buying it as a alternative source of money, where you can hold it and it keeps its purchasing power over millennia. It's just a smart thing to own for many, many people as an alternative to, say, the dollar or the yen or the euro or whatever.
Yes. great way to preserve your wealth. But of course,
Yeah.
Equinox kind of potentially offers more than just holding your wealth. So
For sure.
why would an investor, why should an investor take a deeper look or invest in Equinox over other large producers or producers?
Well, you've got to look at, first of all, you look at our leverage. We're the most leveraged gold stock in the large gold company universe. I think we were shown a week ago, I saw a chart from RBC, I think, showing that Equinox was the most leveraged gold stock. And what I mean by that is it has the most beta to the gold price. As the gold price goes up a little, we go up a lot, and vice versa. So that's bringing in a lot of short-term traders into our stock. We've got great liquidity, and liquidity begets liquidity. So if you have a liquid stock, people can get in and can get out quickly. More people come in and trade it.
Yeah.
So the stock is very, very liquid, which gives us alternatives as well in terms of financing. And beyond that, we have a really great management team, super strong, super experienced, just know what they're doing smart things. And of course, the largest project we have right now, by far, and by far the one that's going to drive our costs way down, is this big project in Ontario called Greenstone. We're in the middle of construction.
Where is it?
It's in northern Ontario, a little town called Geraldton, just north of the north part of Lake Superior.
Okay.
So that is for us, that's going to be our largest gold project. It'll be the third largest gold mine in Canada, producing about 450,000 ounces when it's completed at the end of this year, early next year. We have a 40% joint venture partner, Orion. So we own 60% of it. We're running the construction, and so far so good. Assuming it comes on into production a year from now, it'll be by far our lowest cost producer. It'll drive our costs down, increase our cash flow, potentially allow us to pay a dividend, and really put us on the map as a global, significant global gold producer. So we've got the growth, and then we have growth in 4 other projects that we own as well.
Sorry.
So we have the growth, we have the exploration upside, we have the diversified ownership of 7 producing mines, and a highly liquid stock. It's just I think it's a great name and a great way for people to play gold.
So we're almost at your destination. I'm just going to do a quick loop around. I do have one more question for you. You're offering a keynote at VRIC this year, right?
Well, not so much a keynote as a fireside chat. I loathe keynotes because you have to make speeches and things and do homework. I'd much rather do this Q&A.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's a fireside chat, they call it.
Right. We're doing this interview a few days before that conference starts. This interview will be airing after. Maybe stepping away from Equinox, you do many things in your career. What's sort of a message you want to put out there to investors, or anything? Where are your thoughts lately as a human being outside of Equinox?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, really, I mean, for me, it may sound contradictory, but I'm also a very hardcore environmentalist. I love nature. I love protecting nature as much as I can. I'm very active on boards of groups, nonprofits that do this. I'm the board of the Pacific Salmon Foundation, for example, a large wildcat conservation society in New York called Panthera, the Nature Trust of BC, and I'm the chair of the BC Parks Foundation. Plus, I have a large foundation called the Sitka Foundation, which does 100% of its grant making is on environmental projects across Canada. We're supporting 75 or 80 different groups right now in Canada, and giving away about $10 million a year, I think, off of a foundation capital base of about $300 million. So I'm doing a lot of that stuff, and I really get a lot of fulfillment from trying to protect nature as much as I can. And that goes for not just the philanthropy side, but also how you mine well, and how you mine with a small footprint, and protecting the water resources, protecting the air, protecting your communities, looking after your workers. It's just basically how you operate these days. It's how you do things, and so I do a lot of that stuff, and it means a lot to me. And protecting land, I guess, is my main focus right now. Trying to create more parks and protected areas in the world, but especially in British Columbia.
Right. Well, it's such a beautiful place. I'm going to ask you: have you been fishing with Eric Sprott?
No, I've never been fishing, but I go fishing a lot. I fish a ton, and I love fishing.
I was going to ask who the better angler was, but there goes that question.
I don't. I know Eric. We've done things over the years, but I never fished with him, and I have a huge amount of respect for him, but not as a fisherman, because I just don't know that. But I don't have a lot of respect for myself as a fisherman either. I'm just lucky, and a lot of in BC we have a lot of salmon, and it's a pretty nice way to spend a part of a summer, go salmon fishing.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a fantastic interview. We covered everything I sort of wanted to talk about. You've given us your message to investors and just humans in general, and how to make the world a better, greener place. I want to thank you very much for everything you've given to the mining community and investors. You've done. There's a lot of content out there on YouTube and other places, and it's great for us to be able to learn from you and your experience. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you very much. This is an unusual form of interview with driving around the city, but it's fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.